Okay, this is my first stream. Um, I'm going to be sketching a dicradium.
Okay, this is my
plant.
first
Oh, okay. Why
stream.
I'm hearing myself? Oh, okay. I need to close this thing.
I'm going to be
Okay. Okay, we need to start again. I'm going to be reconstructing seed ferns that are very important. Dicradium is a major component of the Triassic floras of the of Gondwana. Like you might have seen these kind of forked leaves, and they are everywhere. And if you want to paint a Triassic scene from, I don't know, Estivalasto Formation, for example, you need to make these trees in an accurate way. The problem is that reconstructing plants is hard. So, for example, all this iconic fauna of the Triassic, they need to be depicted in an accurate environment. Sometimes you can get away with painting some generic ferns and some generic conifers, but if you really want to do an interesting and accurate piece, you need to do some research, right? So that's why I'm going to talk about seed ferns. Corystosperms, represented by the dicrodium leaves, and the reproductive organs, the female ones are Uncomacia, and the male pollen cone is called Pterucus, I think. These Corystosperms were very important. They first appeared during the Permian, but they really got their highest diversity during the Triassic. And there is a brief history that I need to cover in regards to the reconstructions that have been made of these plants in the past, because we as paleo artists need to, well, read a lot. It's not just about painting. So the first reconstruction of these kind of plants was actually this one. This is a Dicradium suberi. Dicradium suberi is or Suberia. It's a synonym. Some researchers think that Suberia is a different species from Dicradium. I'm going to struggle to pronounce these names because English is not my first language, and I'm used to read these kind of names in Spanish. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. Dicradium suberi. The wood of this tree is Rexoxylon. Rexoxylon biatsnitsky is the species. Rexoxylon is here. Rexoxylon. This reconstruction was the first one. And I think that it's wrong. Why? Well, because I don't think there is enough evidence to suggest this kind of architecture of the plant, like a cycad-like growth. And I'm going to explain why I don't think this reconstruction is accurate. This reconstruction is from 1978. First of all, I want to say that this is very relevant. The fact that it's from 1978 is going to be relevant in a moment. I will explain why. There are various species of Dicrodium, at least 3 associated with stems directly attached fronds and these are some species. This is Dicroidium elongatum. This is a very poorly scanned paper, so the fossils are sadly not very well photographed. Like, you can't really see what's going on here. Sadly, very compressed, and I don't know what happened there, but you can see that you have this one. There's another one. This one is Ontopteroides, Dicroidium Ontopteroides, and it has the same pattern of growth. You have slender stems that come out of like probably bigger branches. Here the researchers suggest that it grew like a ginkgo, but we are going to discuss that in a moment. Why they look so different? You may ask, like, why this reconstruction is like this, and why we have these things going on with the smaller leaves of other species of Dicroidium. Of course, if you wanted to do a reconstruction of this tree, you would certainly do a branched tree, right? Well, why did the workers here did this kind of depiction? I'm going to explain the reasoning, because even if I think it's wrong, I don't think it's fair to say, oh, okay, no, this is totally wrong. This makes sense with the information given at the time. Rexoxylon is a different kind of wood from the one in the Antarctic sites and the Australian sites. The Rexoxylon species are more common in South America and in Africa. The other kind of wood, I think, is Cycloxylon. It's another species. The branches that show this kind of growth have not been found. This type of wood has not been found in Argentina. But I don't think that really means much, and I'm going to argue why. This reconstruction, first of all, we need to keep in mind that Suberia, or Dicroidium suberi, these fronds are like 60 centimeters long, compared to these little ones that might be like 15 centimeters. The mature leaves, there must be around 15, between 10 and 15 centimeters. This one is 60. This one's bigger, right? Rexoxylon. So this plant has a scaly, a rhomboidal pattern of scars around the certain stems, certain younger stems. Not necessarily the big tree. The bigger trunks, like the 40 centimeters of diameter trunks, don't show this scaling pattern, as far as I know, but I could be wrong. But this pattern has been recovered from smaller stems, right? The scale of this thing is, this is not Piatsnitsky, by the way. This is another species of Rexoxylon, but they also show this scaly, like this pattern right here, like it's not a cycad-like pattern, but it's at least rhomboidal. So various species of Rexoxylon, which are the ones the wood recovered from Ischigualasto formation, show this pattern, right? The ones from the Australian sites and the Antarctic sites don't show that pattern, as far as I know. I mean, from what I can tell, maybe it's because of the preservation, but I'm not seeing anything like that. I'm not seeing the scales, the rhomboidal pattern. I see, I don't know. It doesn't look like that. Anyway, um, why I think this is wrong then? Wait a sec. Okay. We need to keep in mind, first of all, that this Chihualasto formation has species of dicroidium that they have evidence of branching in other sites. This species is also present in Argentina. Elongatum, Dicroidium elongatum, is also, it lives along Suberia, the bigger one, the 60 centimeters long leaves. The plant that had those leaves grew along the other ones, like Xylopteris. It's the same, it's a synonym. Suberia, it's the same as Dicroidium suberi. And so you have different sizes, but there's no other way to reconstruct these smaller leaved trees, but as a branch of trees, because they do that in Antarctic region. So why I think then that Suberia it's not as different as some may think? Well, I'm going to explain that in a second. Wait, I don't remember where is it. First of all, the reasoning behind this reconstruction is the following. The first time someone thought, hey, Dicroidium goes with Rexoxylon was when Sergio Archangelski made that very smart observation that, hey, these plants are associated, right? And given the fact that these fronds are so big, they must be the ones responsible for the scarring in the small stems of Rexoxylon. And that's totally valid, right? That it's the most coherent explanation or for the connection of those plants. So that I'm not going to question that. That totally makes sense, right? But what does not make sense is to think of a palm-like growth like this. Why? First of all, because the Rexoxylon stumps don't show a long columnar growth that ends up in a crown of fronds. This is fantasy. As far as I know, you have stems that have the rhomboidal scarring. Those stems are not as big as the biggest stumps and the widest diameter trunks, because there are other specimens of Rexoxylon that show a wider diameter, and the scale of this drawing is very I think I would say that it's wrong, because this thing, if this frond is a bit over 60 centimeters long, the scale of this thing, that it's supposedly like 30, I want to 35 centimeters of diameter. And 20 centimeters of length. So you have a small fragment of the stem, of the main trunk, right? Then the holotype actually is a small stem with the rhomboidal scars. This bigger stem does not have the rhomboidal scarring. You need to keep in mind that. And well, they thought, hey, the the holotype of the Rexoxylon is the LILPB2152. It's a supposedly juvenile, I guess young, stem, small specimen, right? And I don't think that's the correct assumption. I think it's just a younger branch, but not necessarily a young plant. If you have a piece of stem with rhomboidal scarring, that does not mean that you can extrapolate that and just say, okay, the mature plant was like a big cycad-like plant. This is just a historic reconstruction that I don't think it makes sense given the fact that a branching architecture has been found in multiple species, some of which can be assigned to species that coexisted in the same place as the other as this the Caridium suberi. I'm referring to Ontopteroides and Elongatum, which have been found in the same place, right? Look at this. It says Ischigualazo Formation, and you have Ontopteroides. Fuck. Okay, I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to click on it. Okay, I kind of lost this thing. Oh, this is the pollen. This is the macroflora. You have Xylopteris elongata, which is the Croidium elongatum. You have Johnstonia coriaceae. That's a small forked leaf. Is this one, Johnstonia? Which, if you put it in the scale, you are going to see that they aren't very big. That doesn't make sense to reconstruct the Corystosperms as tree ferns. The only reason, in my opinion, of course, I'm not a paleobotanist, but I think the only reason this reconstruction is still being cited by some researchers is more of an inertia thing. It's not because it has strong evidence to back it up. So yeah, this 35 centimeters diameter is, I don't think it's a mature tree. First of all, there's more evidence of even wider trunks of a bigger diameter. So yeah, I think this is just little pieces that got interpreted the wrong way. That's why I argue that the tree, the 35 centimeters of diameter trunk, could be better reconstructed as a branched tree, because the other Corystosperms are clearly branched, like Johnstonia, Dicrodium elongatum, like those. There is a false dichotomy in the literature where it's repeatedly stated that there is an Argentinian growth and an Antarctic growth. But this happens a lot because of an equivocation with the words. Some researchers, when they say growth, they are referring to the internal growth of the wood, the anomalous secondary growth that the wood shows. And others, when they say growth, they are also referring to the architecture of the branching. And I've seen in another paper where researchers were arguing against each other, and they were really not engaging with what each other were saying because of these misunderstandings with the words. But it was a heated debate. Brian Axsmith passed away in 2020, I think. So, well, he was very involved in the investigation of dicroidium and other Triassic floras. But he has this paper, which I have here, in which he's like responding to another paper, and then there is another one that like there is there is a very crazy thing when things got heated in the in the in the paper. But I don't think this is the one that shows that. But I don't feel like showing that because that doesn't add anything to the conversation. Anyways, some researchers have argued against this interpretation of the attached leaves. They have said, no, there's actually not an organic attachment. There is a sediment in between there, and it's not a natural. This is not actually attached, or that this is bent like this. So this means that it's not the same. I think that's a wrong interpretation. I've seen that in another paper. Obviously, the plant in life will have this thing going like upwards towards the light, not bent like this. This is just a taphonomic distortion. So yeah, I think this is pretty clearly something that really happened. Like this was attached to a branch, right? And well, and there's a third species that I don't have access to the paper, which shows something like this too. Like it shows more attachment evidence. So we have this reconstruction here, and we have where is it? Where is it? I don't know where is it. Okay, it's here. You have two very different proposed reconstructions of dicroidium, of dicroidium. I struggle with the pronunciation of the Latin and Greek names and stuff. Sorry. You have this. And I think that as a paleoartist, the most parsimonious explanation or reconstruction will be the one who will incorporate the most evidence and will try to speculate the least. And given the evidence that when dicroidium leaves have been found attached to stems, they were always in slender stems that were always branching. I find no reason to believe that the reconstruction on the left is the most reasonable one. I'm not saying it's impossible. There are many different plants that have a very diverse type of branching. In fact, you could argue that, well, certain Cycadophyta were branched and some were columnar trunks with rhomboidal scars, like a cycad-like growth for some, and others were branching. Yes, that's also true. You can have that kind of diversity. But I still think that the burden of proof falls on the one that's saying, okay, this plant grew totally different from the other dicroidium because, I don't know, incomplete evidence. I think it's safer to assume that they had some kind of branching. It probably looked different than the smaller smaller fronds that maybe are 10 centimeters long, 15, versus a 60 centimeter long front. But some kind of branching was not something that can be argued against here. Like, at least there is not evidence against it. That's what I'm saying. So, given that information, I think some kind of branches were probably present. But I don't think they look all the same, because these are all related plants. That's true, but they are they all existed in the same place, and I don't think they all look the same. They were probably adapted to different to I mean, it's not different conditions, but maybe different I don't know, styles of growth. I suggest that maybe it grew like this, and this will, of course, I'm going to do a sketch in a moment. I'm going to start sketching this thing. Oh, I'm going to start sketching a new reconstruction in a new file. This one was something that I had done, but I never finished it, and it's very sketch-like. But I think that Dicroidium suberi, the bigger ones, the bigger leaves, Suberia, were probably a branched tree with a scarring of like scale patterns here, rhomboidal scarring here, but this surface is smooth. Also, I need to mention that this is smooth and slightly bent. This is a characteristic that the bigger trunks has, but the smaller ones have scales, like this a rhomboidal scale pattern. This is going to be important for the reconstruction. The other ones, like this, like Radium elongatum, I don't know. That looks more smooth overall, and it grows in like a ginkgo. If this is the trunk, the stem, I mean, it has like a shoot here, and it goes like this. Compared to this one, which goes something like this. Right? And it's more complex. The leaf is more complex, but I think this is reasonable, right? The actual pattern must be different, because if it has scales, it wouldn't have the ginkgo-like shoots which go like this, right? I don't think it's going to be the same. But just because it has a scaling pattern, scale pattern, rhomboidal scales here, does not mean that the tree did not branch. Like, that doesn't make sense really. And it lost the leaves, the scales here, and it has like this kind of pattern. The wood has this texture. I will say something like this. Now I'm going to start doing a new sketch because No me la contés. Ok. No me la contés. Ah, no estoy muteado, estoy ahí. Estoy muteado. Esa la escuchaste. Ah, the scale fishing. Vamos a poner una escala. Vamos a hacerle cuenta que eso es... ¿Qué le pasó a esto? Tuki. Mapa. Sabemos qué herramienta que nos servirá más adelante. I'm going to have this branch here of the Suberia type of branches, and I'm going to have another one here of the Johnstonia or Dicrodium ontopteroides, the plant by side here. And this one is going to have the short shoots. The ginkgo-like shoots of the rest of the species, like side by side here, and the shoots here. And well, the leaves will go here. I need to scale because if this is ahí está, en la escala. Vamos a bajarlo ahí por el momento. I'm going to leave this thing here. ¿Qué es esto? Vamos a ver qué más hay acá. Reacción Brunei. No está acá, sí. Salió un gato. No es esto, ¿dónde está? Ah! Ok, listo, es algo así. Es muy largos estos. Tiene sentido. Vamos a dar otro colorcito. These are the other species of Dicredium, which I'm going to add more detail sooner. But I need to keep sketching. They look so small compared to the huge zoo area. This is going to be elongatum. It's not the most technical one. I can suggest texture with just the general shape. Some small details here. Okay. Something like this. Just to have a side-by-side comparison. Need to make the details more clear here. I wanted to start with a darker background to work and add volume with the lighter ones, because this is a very stylized depiction and it's not actually I don't know, a naturalistic one. A naturalistic depiction of the plant. It's just a sketch. But I think it's starting to have shape here. I will imagine that the leaves were a bit heavy given their size. Maybe they go like this. Okay, I think this is starting to look better. Yay. I think it's going well. I guess some people were expecting to see dinosaurs. But I don't want to paint dinosaurs. Well, this is a first sketch of the plants. This must be Siberia. This is Cycridium elongatum. I don't believe the palm-like growth is actually backed up by any evidence. So I'm going to depict them both as branched trees. I don't want to do anything schematic. Whoa! And the rack case is going to be coming out of the like this. I will imagine that the bigger the leaves where they will start to die out. Until new shoots replace that, I guess. But I'm not sure if maybe some shoots grew like this. Some young shoots. I don't think so. Maybe if it's a new bud of a future a future branch, maybe it can grow like this, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't do that. So this is my idea. Yeah, it's starting to make sense. Yes, not as a palm-like tree, but as a branched tree. Okay, what's going on here? This thing goes like this. Maybe it's a new shoot, and the leaves are smaller because there is a lot of leaves that aren't as big as the 61 mature leaves, and probably younger shoots had smaller fronts. Yeah, and of course the scale-like pattern can be improved in some way. I need to get this thing better. Need to make this thing more clear. But I don't want to make it too pronounced because if you will see the plant in the natural, more naturalistic depiction, I would imagine that it will not be as perfect. So Tugi, the scales of Rexoxylon. I'm going to add a text here. I'm going to Rexoxylon A branched tree. Yeah. What happened here? Okay, and now in Ongatum I need to decrease Ongatum. This one's very easy, but the one that it's 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 hard to do is this one, the Suberia one. I think this totally makes sense actually. Okay, ahí va. No one has ever done this before. I'm the first one doing an interpretation like this. This doesn't mean much. It could be wrong though. Like, if there is new evidence of a tree like this, well, I'm going to of a palm-like tree, I'm going to change my mind. But I don't think, given the evidence, that we can really favor one model or the other, especially given the fact that the only attached dichroidium leaves always occur in branched trees. So I'm going with this one. Ok, esto está un poco difícil. I think that doesn't look very good. It's hard to paint plants. But it's not that hard if you do it like this though. If you go with a painterly approach, it's very easy. But if you actually try to add all the details, it's going to be very hard. But sometimes less is more. Like, this is not a technical illustration, so it's fine. No, the scale disappeared. That's 60 centimeters. Really matching even more density of the fronts here. And I could imagine that not all grew at the same time, at the same size. I want to see something. I don't think the Rexoxylon grew like this, though. I don't think it was as heavily branched as a ginkgo. Uy, ¿qué toque acá? Enter two measure types. Kicklaxylon. Kicklaxylon. Enter two measure types. Kicklaxylon. Pero Kicklaxylon. Pero Kicklaxylon. No importa. ¡Ah! Just the texture. Bueno, ahí va. Qué oscuro está esto. No, no está mal, no está mal. No está nada mal. Bueno, a ver qué pasa acá. Yo creo que estamos terminando el boceto. Bueno, un poquito de volumen acá. Y ahí está. Bueno. Maybe some details here. Ay, no sé, eso no sé, no me gusta. Bueno, ahí está, más o menos. Toque acá. Está quedando feo ahí. I guess you would prune like this. More scales here. I don't believe there's any reason to not have it like a branched tree. Bueno, yo quiero que está bien. Este es más fácil. Bueno, ahí creo que está. Tiene una pantera. ¿Quién tiene una pantera? Tiene una pantera. ¿Quién tiene una pantera? Vale, yo creo que está. No puedo hacer otra cosa. No, no, no. Tuki tuki tuki, sí. Ok, ahí estamos. No, 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 feo, 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 feo. Ah, está bien. Algo así. Mm, algo así.
Bueno, ahí va. Ok, bien, ahí está. Como primer sketch, está bien, primer boceto. Yo creo que está perfecto. Controversial es esto, pero va. Bueno, yo creo que puedo cortar. Sí, está bien.